some ants as well over here, and we have a parrot, a green colored parrot. So these are the birds or the animals that live on trees as shown in the picture, right? Okay, so let's move on. Poonam looked up. She saw many animals on the tree. Which animals can you spot on the tree in the picture? Write down their names. So we discussed about what animals were there on the tree. Now we can write down their names in these blanks over here. So we had a pigeon, we had a squirrel, we had a squirrel, then we had a crow, and we have a monkey, then we have a butterfly, we have sparrow, a cuckoo, and at last we have some ants. We have a parrot as well. So these are the animals that are there on the tree. Now let's move on and read further. Parrot picked up a leaf from the ground and wiped her cheek with it. Poonam. But her cheek was still sticky. She thought, let me go and wash my face in the nearby pond. Which animals did Poonam see at the pond? Look at the picture and write their names. Okay, so at the pond we can see there are various animals. We have a goat over here. Let me use a different color. We have a goat. Then we have a tortoise. Then we have a crane. Where's the crane? We have a crane and we have a stork. Then we have a frog. In fact, two frogs, one is jumping into the pond. Then we have two buffaloes in the pond. So these are the animals that stay in the pond. Although buffaloes don't stay in the pond, goats also don't stay in the pond, but they come to have some water, or they are here to have some bath in the pond. So which animals did Poonam see at the pond? We can write their names below now. So we have goat, then we have tortoise, we have crane, buffalo, frog, and stork. Okay, now this was all about this one. Let's move on and let's see what did Poonam do further. Can you act like the animal seen in the at the pond? Which animal makes what kind of sounds and movements? Try to make some similar sounds. Okay, so we can try acting like some animals, like a goat. She does may, may. This is all she does, right? So let's move on. Different animals move in different ways to go from one place to another. Some animals walk, some crawl, some fly, and some swim. For this, some animals use their feet, some use their wings. So here we have to write the names of the animals that do these various things. Let's start with the first one. Which animals fly? So if we talk about flying, we know that birds fly, right? So we can write crow. Crow is a bird and it flies. Then we have parrot. We can write parrots. And any other bird? We can have sparrows. Sparrow also flies, right? Then the animals that can crawl. So for crawling we have, let's say, snake. A snake crawls on the ground. Then we have a lizard, maybe. It crawls on the walls. Then we have a turtle. A turtle also crawls on the ground. Now here we have to write the names of the animals that can walk. So for walking we have horse. A horse walks and runs. A cow. A cow can walk, or a buffalo, or even a goat. They all can walk. Then we have animals that can hop. So hopping means they jump in a different manner. Some animals jump in a different manner to their front. So that's called hopping. Like if you have seen a frog hops. Then a kangaroo. It also jumps or hops, or we can say a rabbit. Now the next one is wings. So wings, we know only birds have wings. So we can have names of birds over here. That is, we can have a parrot. Then we can have a sparrow, or we can have an eagle. An eagle has very big wings, right? Next we have feet. So for feet we can have any animal. All animals walk on their feet. So we can have animals like a bear. A bear has feet, and a teddy bear also has feet. Then we can have a buffalo. A buffalo has feet. A cow has 4 feet, right? The next thing is about a tail. So animals that have tail are, we can see many animals around us that have tail. Let's say a monkey. A monkey has long tail. Then we can have a buffalo. Buffaloes also have long tail. Then a cow or a goat. All these animals have tail. Okay, so this was all about these animals. Animals live in different places. Some animals live in the trees, some in water, Some live on land, some live under the ground, and some fly in the sky. Some animal even live in our houses. Okay, so this was all about their habitat, which is called a habitat. The animals that live on various places according to the thing that they are comfortable. So that is called their habitat. Like we live in our houses, so that's our habitat. A bird lives on trees, so that's their habitat. Let's move on. Here we have to color the animals that do not live in our house. We have to color those animals. So here we have a squirrel. A squirrel does not live in our house, it lives on trees. Then we have a fish. A fish lives in rivers, ponds, lakes, oceans, but not in our house. We can take it as a pet. Then we have elephants. Elephants live in jungles. Then any other animal? This also does not live in our house. A duck. Lizards do live in our house, and cockroaches live in our house. Then we have horses, dogs. This bird, it's an eagle, it also does not live in our house. So these animals do not live in our house. Then let's move on. Let's try this interesting crossword puzzle. Who am I? Find my name in the crossword and put a circle around it. One example has been given. Okay. Banana is what I love eating. I spend my time jumping and leaping. Okay, and we know that bananas are the favorites of monkeys. So we have monkeys circled over here. The next one, on the walls, webs I weave, where insects stick and cannot leave. Okay, so if it's talking about weaving a web, we know that it's a spider. So let's find out, where do we get a spider? Over here. This is a spider. Okay. I remain awake the whole night and go to sleep in broad daylight. Okay. And we know that an animal, a bird which remains awake the whole night, is an owl. So let's see, where do we get an owl? Over here. So we can make a circle around an owl. Okay, next one. Croak, croak, croak is my sound. In water or on land I am found. Okay, croak, croak, croak we know is a frog. So let's see, where do we get a frog? It's here. Let's circle a frog. Okay, I appear after rainfall, have no feet so I crawl. Okay, so after rainfall we have a snail. So, and a snail is seen crawling on the ground, so we can circle a snail over here. The sixth one, slow and steady is my pace, I always win when there is a race. Okay, so this is a tortoise. And where do we see a tortoise? It's over here. It's still here. That's a tortoise. Okay, so these are the animals that we have, and we have circled in them in the crossword puzzle. Okay, let's move on to the last slide. Now they are telling us to spend some more time under a tree. Observe the animals carefully. Name the animals which can be seen on the branches. Okay. So if we start about an animal that are seen on branches, we have a sparrow, or we have a crow, or we have a squirrel. You can see these animals on branches. Then the next one, on the leaves. On the leaves we can have a caterpillar, or we can have a grasshopper. Grasshoppers are of the color of the leaves. Then we can have a beetle. On the trunk we can have let's say ants, termites, or we can have squirrel as well on the trunk. Squirrels keep jumping from one branch to a trunk. On the ground we can have a rat, or we can have a hare, or a rabbit. Around the tree we can have any animal, so maybe a buffalo, a cow, a goat. So these are the animals that can be found on various places on the tree or near the tree. Now arrange these animals in the order of their size, smallest being the first. Okay, so if we start about the first animal, and try arranging that, the smallest animal we have is a termite. After that we can have an ant, then we can have any animal that's bigger than an ant. Maybe a grasshopper. Then we can have caterpillar, beetle, and A rat. A squirrel is bigger than a rat, so we can have a squirrel. A squirrel, and what's bigger than a squirrel? A crow. A sparrow. Then we can have a rabbit. Hare. Goat. Cow. And a buffalo. So this is how we can arrange them from smallest being the first to the biggest in order of their size. And this 15 is left because we wrote squirrel 2 times. Okay, now this was all about the basic places where these animals live and their habitat. So now let's do a bit of revision. If I start with a cow, we would draw a table and learn about various animals and their habitat. So here we would draw a line in the center. This side we would have the animal, and here we would have the habitat. So let's start with the first one. The first animal would be an ant. Where does an ant live? An ant lives in an anthill. Let's move for the next one. We have a bird. Where does a bird live? A bird lives in a nest. Then the next one we have is a cat. A cat, we have cats in our house, so a cat lives in a cat house. Then we have a cow. We have cows as well at our home, so a cow lives in a shed. Then we have dogs. A dog lives in a kennel. Then we have a duck. A duck lives in a pond. The next one is an elephant. An elephant lives in a forest. Then we have a fish. Fish lives in water. Then we have a hen. A hen lives in a coop. We would move on to the next page. The next one we have is a honeybee. A honeybee lives in a beehive. Then the next one we have is a horse. A horse lives in a stable. Then we have a monkey. A monkey lives on trees, as we discussed in the chapter. The next one is a mouse. A mouse lives in a hole. Then we have a pig. A pig lives in a sty. We have a rabbit. A rabbit makes a hole in the ground and it lives there. It's called a burrow. We have a sheep. A sheep lives in a shed sort of area that's called a pen. We have spider. A spider lives in a web. It makes the web on its own and it lives there. Then a tiger or a lion lives in a den. So these are some of the animals that live and their habitats, that is their homes. if we talk about some more animals, we have a camel. A camel lives in a desert. Let's move on to the next page. Now here we can have a bat. A bat lives in a roost. Then we have crocodile. Crocodiles also live in a nest. Then we have a yak. Yak lives on hills. We have a frog. A frog lives in a renarium. Lion. Lion lives in a den. Then we have cattle. Cattle contains all the cows, buffaloes, goats. They all live in barns. So these are the various animals that live and their habitats. So in today's session we learned about the animals that live on branches, leaves, trunk, ground, and about their various features. Some animals crawl, some fly in the sky, some live in water, and some live on land. Some are awake at night, most of them are awake in daytime. Some come after the rainfall and some escape from rainfall. So we have various varieties of animals. Some live as a pet in our house and some live in the forests. So we discussed about all such animals and their habitats. So these are the habitats that we discussed. So if I talk about a fish lives in a water. A cat lives in a cat house. A rabbit lives in a burrow. A spider makes a web. A honeybee makes a beehive. Then we have a frog that stays in a renarium. We have a bat that makes a roost for its living. We have a crocodile that lives in a nest. So these are all the animals we discussed about in today's session. So thank you for attending the session, and let's